Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Guide to Better Movement, the Science and Practice of Moving with More Skill and Less Pain. By Todd Hargrove, Certified Rolfer and Certified Feldenkrais Practitioner. Narrated by Erin Moon. Preface. I grew up playing sports. Organized sports, disorganized sports, team sports, and individual sports. I played baseball and basketball through middle school, soccer through high school, and tennis through college. Even though upstate New York is not exactly a hotbed for college tennis, I was proud to play at the top spot for a few years. I was always very interested in what made the good players good. Was it size, speed, strength, skill, conditioning? Was it practice or innate skill? I became far more interested in these subjects when I started competing at pool in college. I'm not sure why. Perhaps it's because in pool there are no obvious physical barriers to playing just as well as the pros. You don't need to be big, strong, or fast. You just need to hit the ball in the right place at the right speed. Whatever the case, I became a little obsessed about playing professional-level pool. I bought every book I could find, and I watched videotapes of the pros for hours to analyze their technique. My friends thought this was pretty weird. Hard to blame them. During this process, I discovered I have an unusual interest in watching movement, analyzing it, and figuring out how to emulate it. As a result, I became a pretty good pool player, but not a pro. I soon learned I could become similarly interested in other physical activities. In my 20s, I took up squash and eventually won the A flight of the Seattle Open 3 times. During the same time I was learning about movement, I was also unfortunately learning about chronic pain. In my 20s, I spent a lot of time working at a computer as a law student and attorney, and this probably contributed to chronic pain in my neck, shoulders, and low back. My knees and feet hurt, too. I felt like I was getting old in the prime of my life. When I was in pain, I couldn't focus on my work, or play sports competitively, or enjoy sitting at a movie, or going on a long car ride. My sleep suffered, and I just never felt truly comfortable or at home in my body. I began reading large volumes of mostly conflicting information about what causes pain and how to treat it. I went to doctors, physical therapists, classes in yoga and Pilates. I read extensively about corrective exercise, functional training, posture, stretching, medical and alternative approaches to pain treatment. I soon realized that I found chronic pain to be a fascinating topic, even aside from its practical application to my life, and that I could become just as absorbed in the study of pain as I was in the study of performance. I also noticed many interesting connections between these seemingly different topics. As a result, I made very steady progress over a few years until I eliminated my chronic pain. That was more than 12 years ago. I'm now 46, continue to compete at sports, and feel terrific in my body. I get hurt from time to time, but I know how to get better. All in all, I feel better now than I did in my 20s, which makes me very optimistic about the potential for change we all have. I know it's not all about getting old. In 2005, I decided to quit being an attorney and find a career that was more aligned with my interests. I became a Rolfer, a Feldenkrais practitioner, and have been working in Seattle with clients since then. In 2008, I started writing a blog to help family, friends, and clients better understand what I learned about pain and movement through my practice and research. Part of my intention was to correct common misconceptions that I see in people who have pain. If someone in pain goes to a physical therapist, family doctor, surgeon, chiropractor, acupuncturist, personal trainer, or massage therapist, he or she might receive 7 different explanations for their pain and 7 completely different treatments. And there is a very good chance many of these explanations or treatments will not be supported by any good science at all. Or even worse, in direct conflict with science. I saw people getting confused, distressed, and wasting time and resources. There is a common theme in this confusion. Many therapists overemphasize the extent to which some alleged defect in the body is responsible for pain. For example, pain might be blamed on bad posture, imbalanced qi, a misaligned spine, a weak core, short hip flexors, muscle knots, or a bulging disc. At the same time, the role of the nervous system in the brain is neglected or misunderstood. This is ironic, because it is quite often the nervous system and not some assumed pathology in the body that actually changes for the better during a successful treatment. In fact, it is very likely that when someone feels better after a chiropractic adjustment, a yoga session, foam rolling, acupuncture, massage, or corrective exercise, very similar mechanisms are at play. And this is true even though the practitioners might imagine they are aiming at completely different targets. Recent advances in pain science and neuroscience provide significant insight into these mechanisms and how they can be most effectively accessed. So, the theme of my blog and this book is, in order to maximize the benefit of any practice intended to help us move better and feel better, we need to understand the actual mechanisms at play. The nervous system has far more control over perceptions and movements of the body than most people imagine. The fastest and easiest way to start moving better and feeling better is to make changes in the nervous system. After writing on these subjects for a year or two, I was amazed to see my blog was getting attention and positive reviews from many nationally known physical therapists and athletic trainers. Several teachers of physical therapy, yoga, or martial arts wrote to me and told me they were referring their students to my articles. I found my posts linked by some of my favorite bloggers. My readership grew until I was in regular contact with a large network of very educated and intelligent people. As a result, my knowledge and commitment to providing accurate and accessible information increased exponentially. By 2012, I decided to write this book to organize and build on the various ideas I had discussed on the blog. I hope you find the information in this book to be as fascinating and useful as I did. Introduction. If you are listening to this book, you are probably someone who wants to learn to move better and feel better. Maybe you are an athlete, a chronic pain sufferer, or someone who enjoys mind-body practices for personal development or self-discovery. Maybe you are a professional devoted to helping others with their movement, a physical therapist, massage therapist, chiropractor, personal trainer, or instructor of yoga, Pilates, or martial arts. If so, this book is for you. It explains the fascinating science related to moving with skill and comfort, and it provides practical strategies to accomplish these goals. The focus of this book is on the nervous system, how it controls the way we move and feel. One major theme is that it has far more influence on strength, speed, flexibility, endurance, pain, and coordination than you might imagine. I tried to write this book with enough scientific detail to please movement professionals, while at the same time remaining accessible to those with no pre-existing knowledge of the subject matter. With that in mind, I have several goals. First, to provide a science-based yet common-sense framework for understanding motor control and its relationship to performance, pain, and personal well-being. The hopeful result is a simple lens through which to understand a large amount of complex and seemingly contradictory information from many different fields, all of which use their own vocabulary and concepts. After listening to this book, you will be better able to synthesize ideas from separate fields, simplify ideas that are complex, clarify ideas that are fuzzy, and discard ideas that are nonsense. The second goal of this book is to articulate some general principles that can be used to improve any program that uses movement to reduce pain or increase physical performance. Whether you do yoga, Pilates, physical therapy, or corrective exercise, this book can help you understand exactly why what you are doing works and how to make things work better. The third goal of this book is to provide some movement lessons that apply the science and principles discussed in the preceding sections. The last chapter includes 25 movement lessons that are based on the Feldenkrais method, each of which focuses on improving a fundamental function such as reaching, locomotion, or coordinating the legs with the trunk. If you haven't been previously exposed to Feldenkrais, you will find these lessons unique, interesting, fun, challenging, and beneficial. And an ideal way to explore movement on your own, without a coach or teacher. Why better movement? Given that you are listening to this book, I assume you are already convinced that improving the quality of your movement is a worthwhile goal. In the event that you need more convincing, here are 3 primary reasons that working to improve the efficiency, coordination, and comfort of your movement may be beneficial. 1. Performance and injury prevention. The best athletes, the best dancers, the best martial artists and yogis are not just those who are the strongest, fastest, or most flexible, although all those things help. The best are those with the highest quality of movement, the best coordination, the best organization of the body. What sets them apart, people like Tiger Woods, Roger Federer, Leo Messi, and Mia Hamm, is not their size, strength, and speed, but their movement intelligence. Movement quality is also what helps elite performers stay free of injury. If you train hard enough to get good at anything, you will put your body under a tremendous amount of mechanical stress. Efficient movement helps one avoid injury by minimizing and disturbing the mechanical stress of movement. 2. Comfort in activities of daily living. The way you move affects how you feel as you go through the activities of everyday life. Even a sedentary life is completely filled with physical activity, sitting, standing, walking, breathing, reaching, bending, etc. Sitting at a computer is a demanding task that causes many injuries. We are all athletes, whether we know it or not. Just as in sport, the movements of everyday life can be performed with more or less coordination and efficiency. Habitual use of excess tension or mechanical stress in these activities is unlikely to cause any discomfort over the course of a minute or two, but accumulated over the course of days, weeks, and years, the effects may become significant. Learning better movement may help avoid or reduce chronic pain and stress. Of course, the body is very adaptable, and we do not need each of our movements to be biomechanically perfect in order to avoid pain and have good function. And indeed, many people with seemingly inefficient movement patterns have no pain, and vice versa. However, movement is one of many sources of stress in life, and we would rather have less stress than more. Sometimes it makes a critical difference. 3. Personal development. Moving better is not just about moving better. The parts of your brain that control movement are linked to the parts that control thoughts, emotions, and sensory perceptions. If you want to change your emotional or mental state, and indeed your self-image, changing the way you perceive and move your body is one way to go about it. Movement is a concrete handle that can be used to grasp more abstract and intangible qualities of the brain. This is why many traditional forms of movement therapy, such as yoga, Pilates, martial arts, Tai Chi, and the Feldenkrais method, are intended to bring health to the mind as much to the body. A brain-based perspective. This book has a brain-based perspective. That means the focus is on how the central nervous system affects how we move and feel, and what we can do to change its function in that regard. This does not imply the structure of the body is unimportant, or good movement is all in your head. Far from it. The structure and health of the musculoskeletal system is essential for quality movement, just as a mechanically sound car is required for safe driving. But there are many books on how to improve the structure of the body through various forms of diet, exercise, and stress reduction. By contrast, there are far fewer books addressing how we can optimize the function of the nervous system, which controls the body. And many people in the field of optimizing movement do not fully appreciate the extent to which the nervous system plays a role in issues of strength, speed, flexibility, endurance, coordination, and pain. This book is an attempt to provide some much-needed balance in the way therapists and trainers look at movement. Distinguishing hardware and software. If you want to fix a computer that has crashed, you need to know if the problem is in the hardware or the software. If you want to know why a car crashed, you might ask whether the fault lies with the car or the driver. Did the car run off the road because the tires failed, or because the driver was not careful enough? If a guitar doesn't sound right, is it because the instrument is out of tune, or because the player is not hitting the right notes? We can ask similar questions when looking at human movement. If your hip flexors feel tight while running, is that because they are too short, or just unable to relax? Is it because your glutes are atrophied in their size, or just inhibited in their function? And if you have hip pain while running, is that because of damage in the hip, or a nervous system that has become overly sensitized to normal movement? Is the problem structure or function, muscle or nervous system, car or driver, hardware or software? Admittedly, we cannot always answer this question or even draw a bright line between structure and function. The distinction is sometimes more of an abstract concept than an objective anatomical reality. Nevertheless, these concepts can be a useful thinking tool for understanding why movement is problematic and what needs to be targeted to make an improvement. As stated earlier, this book will focus on interventions that affect function, not structure, the software, not the hardware, the driver, not the car, the player, not the instrument. There are several very good reasons to make sure we are maximizing the function of the nervous system as we try to improve movement. Here are 3. The nervous system is highly adaptable. The central nervous system is in many ways more plastic and adaptable than the structure of the body. Some structural changes are effectively impossible to make. Bones only change their shape and density over the course of many years, and we are therefore pretty much stuck with the skeletons that we have grown into by the time we are adults. The length of our soft tissue is also not easy to change. Although we might imagine we are lengthening muscle by stretching, it is more likely that increased range of motion is caused by changes in the nervous system's tolerance to stretch, rather than the actual length changes in muscles. Similarly, therapies intended to lengthen or alter fascia probably do not work by changing its structure, but instead through effects on the nervous system. Research shows the forces required to deform mature connective tissue are probably impossible to create with hands, elbows, or foam rollers. Although connective tissue does respond to mechanical stress, change is a long, slow process similar to building bones. In contrast to the structure of the body, functional changes have almost unlimited potential. If you want to become a better basketball player, there is not much you can do to change your height, but there is vast potential to learn basketball skills with the right kind of practice. And the emerging science of neuroplasticity is proving the brain is capable of reorganization throughout its lifetime. The nervous system can change very quickly. The structure of the body changes very slowly in response to accumulated stress. Over the course of years, bones that are repeatedly struck in the same place will eventually get harder and denser. Ligaments and tendons that are repeatedly stressed to a certain level will grow stronger and thicker over the course of months. When muscles are tested enough, they will grow larger, and this will take at least a few weeks. All these adaptations improve function and reduce damage from mechanical stress. While these changes are interesting and very important, they are almost idiotically slow and simple in comparison to the complex adaptability of the nervous system. When the nervous system detects excess mechanical stress in the body, it takes a wide variety of corrective actions instantly. It will immediately reorganize movement patterns to shift stress away from the endangered areas. It can create pain to protect those areas further. It can change perception to provide more precise control of movement. And over the course of only a few minutes, it can learn new ways to move that are safer and more efficient. Thus, the central nervous system is incredibly sensitive and responsive to information in the environment. It can change in an instant, and the brain can learn new skills rapidly. If you are feeling and moving better after a session of yoga, massage, or corrective exercise, it is highly likely the relevant changes have occurred more in the nervous system than in the structure of the body. Nervous system changes can be permanent. Functional adaptations of the central nervous system have another potential advantage over physical adaptations, like gains in muscle size. When developed to a certain level, learning by the central nervous system is effectively permanent. Although we can easily lose the muscles or fitness gained through weight training during time off from the gym, we never forget how to ride a bike. Similarly, the lessons about body awareness and coordination that can be learned through the practice of yoga, martial arts, the Feldenkrais method, or other mindfulness-based movement therapies can potentially benefit the user for a long period of time, provided they are learned to sufficient degree. Roadmap. With this background in mind, let's go over the organization of this book, which has 3 parts. Part 1 covers the science of movement. Part 2 focuses on pain and other protective mechanisms. And Part 3 is about putting these ideas into practice. Following is a chapter-by-chapter breakdown. Part 1. The Science of Moving Better. Chapter 1 defines the essential qualities of movement that are biomechanically most healthy, efficient, functional, or otherwise desirable. Chapter 2 discusses how the nervous system perceives and controls movement and how we can learn to control it better. Chapter 3 is about maps in the brain, patterns of neural activity that represent the body and help govern movement and perception. We will talk about how they change and why it matters. Chapter 4 views movement from a developmental perspective, looking at the fundamental building blocks for movement that we learned as toddlers, and the value of developmental positions for recovering and maintaining fundamental movement patterns as adults. Part 2. The Science of Feeling Better. Chapter 5 discusses the role of the brain in creating pain, why pain does not equal tissue damage, and the way pain is affected by our thoughts and emotions. Chapter 6 discusses protective mechanisms, or central governors, that may limit our physical performance. Stiffness, weakness, fatigue, and altered coordination are all ways the nervous system protects us from movements perceived to be threatening. Chapter 7 provides a scientific framework for understanding how various mind-body disciplines promote self-improvement and emotional control. Part 3. The Practice of Moving Better and Feeling Better. Chapter 8 uses the background established in previous chapters to set forth some brain-based strategies to move better and feel better. These can be used in a wide variety of contexts. Chapter 9 concludes with 25 movement lessons that illustrate one potential application of the strategies discussed in the previous chapter. Let's get started. Part 1. The Science of Moving Better. Chapter 1. Defining better movement. A movement is correct when it perfectly fits a motor problem just as a key easily opens a lock. Nikolai Bernstein. Before we try to improve movement, we should develop some ideas about what good movement looks like. What are the essential qualities of movements that are biomechanically most healthy and functional? This chapter will not involve detailed discussions of anatomy or assessments that are very specific to a particular movement or joint. Instead, we will focus on general principles of good biomechanics that apply to almost every movement we make, and every person who moves. For example, to increase performance and reduce injury, it is generally true that the mechanical stress of movement should be shared by many joints, as opposed to highly concentrated in one joint. This principle remains true whether we are talking about the foot or the shoulder, running or walking, breathing or jumping, an elite athlete or an old man. With that in mind, this chapter will try to identify the essential qualities of all healthy and functional movements. In the process, it will clarify some confusion that exists in regard to many concepts that are commonly used to describe movement qualities, like stability, mobility, flexibility, balance, posture, or alignment. Is flexibility important? How is it different from mobility? Does posture and core stability matter? Are there right and wrong ways to move? Keep listening on for answers. Before getting started, it should be acknowledged that biomechanics are not everything. As we will discuss later in the book, many people with significant chronic pain appear to have excellent movement patterns, and many people with seemingly awkward movement have no pain at all. In addition, movements and postures that are most efficient for one person might not work at all for someone else. Each person is unique and will have different optimal solutions to movement challenges. Despite these caveats, all movements are not created equal in their relation to performance, safety, and the physical stresses they create on the body. People with the highest levels of function have a lot in common in the way they move. For example, even though runners will always have some individual differences in their gaits, a group of elite runners will show less variance than novices. As Tolstoy said, happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. This is true to some extent about happy movers. They share certain essential qualities in common. With that in mind, let's try to describe what these qualities might be. Coordination. All good movement is necessarily an act of coordination, which is defined as harmonious interaction. As applied to movements of the body, coordination means the different muscles and joints cooperate as a team to create a particular outcome. Even the simplest movement requires teamwork. Lifting a finger implies cooperative activity between a prime mover, it contracts to create the movement, a stabilizer, it contracts to prevent unwanted movement, and the antagonist muscle, it relaxes to allow the movement. No matter how fit or capable the individual muscles are, if they are not coordinated as a team, the movement will not occur at all. The team analogy is useful to understand how coordination can be optimized or impaired. Many failures of coordination can be attributed to the players not cooperating, or not playing their proper positions, or a key player getting injured and sitting on the bench. Imagine turning to look over your left shoulder. Joints in the neck, shoulders, ribs, and vertebrae all cooperate in turning left. What if one of the team members doesn't move at all? Other team members have to work harder to get the job done, and the efficiency of the movement is impaired.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?